to episode 58 of the AMT podcast. Now, in this episode, I want to talk about some of the best ways to improve your trading, what really moves the needle, because I find that a lot of people tend to overemphasize the wrong things. So there's a couple of myths that I want to dispel. Now, I already did a write-up on this on Substack, so if you're not subscribed, you should be. But I also feel like this topic would make for a good podcast episode for me to delve into. Now, speaking of Substack, my Discord channel is growing and flying. There's a lot of like-minded traders sharing ideas, sharing trades, including myself. We have profitable traders in numerous markets, from horse racing to cricket to football and even crypto. So if you want to join the community and gain access to niche information and my trading entries, then I'll leave the link in the description below. Back to the episode. Now, I've worked with numerous students and quite a few traders, and I find that a lot of people tend to obsess when it comes to tracking ROI and analyzing data. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with tracking your results. I track my own P&L, weekly and monthly for my own bookkeeping, but I don't dig deep into what my ROI was, because for the most part, it's a waste of time. Tracking your ROI over a certain period or a certain market over a particular period of time and comparing it to the past means that we have to assume the exact same conditions, which is just never the case. And that's true no matter what you're betting or trading or investing in, whether it's sports, stocks, or crypto. So for example, if we take me, for example, and I look at my sports profits, particularly Test cricket, as I'm recording this episode, I'm currently betting on the India-Australia series over 5 games. And they're currently playing the third match in Brisbane at the Gabba. Now, the last time India came in was back in 2021, and that was a hugely profitable series for me. And there are some fixed variables. They are playing on the same pitch, for example, but there's a lot more changing variables like the weather and the players, of which only 4 of the starting 11 from India's team last time at the Gabba are playing, and only 6 of the 11 players from the last match are playing this time. That is a lot. Not to mention the fact that it's unlikely we might even get a result. It looks like it's heading for a draw, because of adverse weather. And when you consider that, I took dozens, if not up to 100 positions on the last game. So looking at a result from 3 years ago where I staked, I don't know, say 100 points and made 130 points, that tells me absolutely nothing about as to how much I can expect to make this time around. Trading for the most part is situational. Markets evolve due to changing dynamics. So looking at historical ROI, yeah, it's good for my bookkeeping, but since it hinges on conditions that are unlikely to repeat, it's pointless to analyze. Now let's take cryptocurrencies as another example. If you got involved in Bitcoin in the 2017 bull run, you'd have seen the price go from £1,000 up to £15,000, or a 1,500% return on your investment. But if you got involved during the 2020 or 2021 bull run, or if you went through both, then you would have seen the price go from its previous high of 15K up to 16K, which is a 400% return. This time round in 2025, which we're anticipating to a bull run, it's likely going to be even lower. So if I'm going to use my previous ROI as a barometer for success, then it looks like I'm doing worse. But if you understand how the markets work, then you'll understand that the market capitalization on the cryptocurrencies was around $100 billion in 2017. Today in 2024, it's a $3.7 trillion industry. That's a 37-fold increase. So as the market cap gets bigger, it takes more money to push the price higher, so diminishing returns sets in. So obsessing with past results and looking at your returns is just one of the most dangerous things you can do as a trader or an investor, because it leads to false assumptions about performance that lead to irrational behavior sometimes. A string of wins, for example, can lead to false confidence, or in the example of Bitcoin, the diminishing ROI has led a lot of traders to start looking elsewhere into riskier, dangerous asset classes like meme coins, or even using leverage just to boost their profits so they can chase that high of what they experienced back in the early days. If you're trading or investing just to chase highs, previous highs, then you're going to lose everything over time. That's almost guaranteed. The only purpose of looking at your ROI is just for bookkeeping. It just tells you whether you're doing something right or wrong. If your ROI is consistently negative and you're losing money, then yes, obviously you need to try something different. But if you're trying to make more money, your only focus should be to operate at scale. You can have a 99% strike rate. You can have a huge ROI, but if you only got £1,000 bankroll, then you'll never be able to compete with someone with a 500 grand bankroll who only has to lump on odds on, for say 2% of his bankroll once, and he's made more than your entire month's work. So the goal as a trader is not to it's not to chase, previous big returns, but it's to preserve and grow your capital. Because as your staking size grows, your ROI goes down because you can't get matched for the same amount of money. And you don't even need to take the same sort of risks. So your appetite for risk should go down as your bankroll increases. Now, the second biggest mistake I see traders making is this overemphasis on collecting data. So many times I've seen traders obsessing over charts and graphs and numbers and spotting patterns and anomalies. And look, this is great stuff, and it is important. And it is an advantage if you're able to use sophisticated means of dissecting data, like using Excel formulas or VBA or machine learning. That stuff is all beautiful, but there's a couple of issues. The first is that no matter how sophisticated your data set is, the past does not dictate the future, as I said before. So trying to backfit past data onto the future is going to be detrimental to your profits for so many reasons. And the first reason being is that for an event to reach the final destination on the way, a lot of low probability, low percentage events had to occur at the right place at the right time for the event to ultimately happen the way it did. In other words, there's a lot of market noise. So by over-analyzing data, you run the risk of mistaking noises as signals, and you'll be prompted to make decisions based on patterns which were never there. Another reason why over-analyzing past data can be detrimental to your profits is because if the trades that you enter are contingent upon the exact same scenarios coming to fruition, then you're going to narrow your scope of opportunity so much that you're going to miss a lot of trades. And the purpose of using data is as a pointer. The goal is not to micro-analyze every single variable because a lot of it is just noise. The real skill is in discernment. The skill is being able to weight the variables accordingly and figure out what the game-changing variables are. What factors are going to impact the result the most? So for example, if you want to bet on horse races profitably and consistently, it's too cumbersome and pointless to analyze every single facet of a race that a horse has run. What time it ran, what conditions it was running in, what color its saddle cloth was, how many strides it took. Instead, focus on the game-changing variables that consistently influence results every race. So for example, what weight is it carrying? Is it up or down in trip? How well has he run at this track before or similar tracks? And what are those similar tracks? You can start with just a handful of those and then just start to look for patterns, look for clues and consistencies. You can look at a handful of these variables, just one or two, and then from there, you start building a picture. You start putting the pieces of the puzzle together so that you can forecast what's going to likely happen. Not guaranteed, but likely. Because the goal isn't to win every time. That's impossible. The goal rather is just to win more than you lose. When you couple that skill with proper financial habits by keeping your expenses in check and preserving your capital and growing your capital, and when you couple that skill with proper financial habits like living as lean as possible, keeping your expenses minimal, you can preserve and grow your capital to a point where ROI isn't just necessary to stay alive, but irrelevant. That should be your focus as a trader. We live in an information age where data is more readily available than ever and it's more sophisticated than ever. So it's so easy to just get lost in the numbers. But analyzing data is extremely time consuming, and it feels like a lot of people waste time and end up forgetting that the purpose is to make money. It feels like too many people get lost in the mechanics of over-analyzing and ends up becoming a hobby of somewhat. But like I said, the goal is to make money and to do it efficiently. And in order to do that, you need to hone your ability in knowing what to look for and how to pair that data with intuition. The data is just a guide, and that's just one part of the equation. The ultimate goal is to marry that data with intuition. Now, me personally, I used to have the opposite problem. When I started out, I completely ignored the data. I would watch what happens in play, then look at how the market's responding, and then position myself to trade accordingly. Now, whilst that worked for me for a long time, it did leave me exposed when I shouldn't have been. So I'd never say that one is better than the other, but you need to learn to do both. To whatever extent is up to you. Now, whilst I've spoken almost exclusively about decision making and execution, another important aspect of trading is the outside influences that impact the behavioral aspect of trading. So some questions you could ask yourself are the following. How strong was your rationale for entering a trade? How strong did the data point towards the forecast that you made? Were your trades based on your own methodology, or were they influenced by something outside? Why did you allow it to be influenced? If you continue to let outside influences dictate your methodology, is that going to be a net positive or a net negative on your profits? Did you stake correctly? Did understaking cause you to leave profits on the table? To what extent were your trades influenced by emotion? What were the emotions and what was the cause of it? How consistently and strictly do you stick to a routine before you trade? So these are some questions that relate directly to the performance of your sessions. So by, through journaling and introspection, by answering questions along these lines, you can identify behavioral patterns that are likely to hinder your profits. You can only get so good as a trader. There's only so much studying of past returns that you can do, and your means of gathering data can only be so sophisticated. But it's essential as a manual trader to track your performance, which is just a byproduct of your preparation, not just physically, but mentally. I've lost count how many profitable trades I've made, yet still underperformed because my decision-making and execution was not up to par. I've found personally that journaling and introspection is an important part of trying to improve. And by doing this frequently, it's going to throw up its own set of personal questions for you. So as you can see, there's quite a few facets that have to be dialed in. The first being that you need to use the data to spot trends. And to do that, you need to figure out what are the game-changing variables and not obsess with every data point, a lot of which is just market noise. By micro-analyzing data and trying to backfit it, you're going to restrict your possibility of opportunities. The second thing you need to do is dial in the behavioral aspect of trading. You need to know what makes you tick, what triggers you or prompts your mistakes. It could be your environment, or it could just be your personality makeup. It's all well and good being able to execute, but if you don't have the discipline to stick to a methodology, you're going to lose it all. And finally, the third thing you need to do is learn the financial habits that are going to allow you to preserve and grow your bankroll. It's an awful lot of pressure trying to maintain a high ROI with a small bank. Your appetite for risk should go down as your staking increases. Now, the last 2 points I've made will be covered in more depth, perhaps in future episodes. But hopefully I've given you some insight as to what you should be and shouldn't be doing if you're serious about making money as a trader. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want to join a group of winners where ideas and trades are shared and discussed daily, then join my Discord channel. The link is in the description below. See you guys soon.